that someone somewhere will soon make a change. We all a part of God's great big family. And the truth, you know, love is all we need. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice we're making. We're saving our own lives. It's true, we make a better day. Just you and me. Well, send them your heart so they know that someone cares, and their lives will be stronger and free, as God has shown us by turning stone to bread. And so we all must lend a helping hand. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones to make a brighter day. So let's start giving. Oh, there's a choice we're making. We're saving our lives. It's true, we make a better day. Just you and me. We
Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining our live stream today. This is Nigerian Women Leads. So, our guest is already in the room. So, I will use this medium to welcome Ms. Soraya Din as she takes over from here to welcome our guest and we continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Soraya Dean. I'm the founder of Nigeria Women Lead. Who spoke to you just now is Dofa Francis. He's our right hand, a youth leader in Nigeria who is totally invested in the process of trying to bring about hope and change in Nigeria. And to him, I'm eternally grateful. In the room is our esteemed speaker, Halima Ahmed, whom you will hear from very shortly. We in the United States, we just celebrated Thanksgiving. I don't know if you know what Thanksgiving is. It's a day that we give thanks, especially to the natives. And it's a very controversial holiday. But I take every occasion to be thankful because we must remember that it is not happy people who are thankful, but it is thankful people who are happy. So, being in a state of gratitude and being thankful is something I speak a lot and talk about embodying. This afternoon, we will have a program where shortly Ruth Abner is struggling to join in. She's our Nigeria leader. She's the coordinator for our work in Nigeria. She said she's just struggling to get into the system, and I know Nigeria eternally has this problem. I'm sorry, let me rephrase it. Right now, it has this problem. And she's trying her best, and if she not, we will have a short introduction of what we do in Nigeria. And then I'm going to invite Halima Ahmed to give us speak to us for about 10, 15 minutes, and then we'll pose some questions, and thereafter we will open it up to you for questions. And we want to keep the program tight. We know it's Saturday, you have multiple things to do, and we should be done very latest by 12:15. I visited Nigeria about 10 years ago, and I'm constantly reminded of the word of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. She's a Nigerian feminist and a writer. She said, "If I were not African, I wonder whether it would be clear to me that Nigeria is a place where the people do not need limp gifts of fish, but sturdy fishing rods and a fair access to the pond." And this is what I realized in my encounters with the Nigerians. They're very powerful. And I saw that power, hope, resilience, and commitment in the Nigerian women in particular. Having worked in Nigeria for several years, we founded the Nigeria Women Lead and the Omnia Institute for Contextual Leadership that has spearheaded this work in Nigeria has done tremendous outreach, bringing together Nigerians from multiple states to fight conflict and to resolve conflict, not only to fight. So today, we take a new charge of leading a women and youth-led movement where we are trying to work in the 6 northeastern states, which are a little bit more challenging than the rest. And we want to build a movement of women. We are a grassroots organization. We believe in resourcing and supporting women and youth-led voices, because it's not everybody who has to resolve conflict, but if we create a space for us to come together, conflict automatically gets resolved. And my story and my encounters has proved to me time and again that it is highly possible in Nigeria. I met Bishop Dogo at Hartford Seminary in Connecticut, and we had a very good connection, and he introduced me to his wife Nana. In one of my visits to Kafan Chan, I stayed with them, and Nana was telling me how her father was a Muslim who had converted to Christianity, and he was hounded for that conversion. He went from state to city, from province to province to escape persecution. And finally, his life was taken away. So half of Nana was all Muslim because she was raised Muslim. Then the other half is the Christianity that her father, who became a Christian preacher. And I remember our first conference when we organized, it collided with the Maghrib prayer. And it was Nana, I'm a Muslim woman, but Nana who pointed to me, Soraya, you have to be very careful. You can't have things at the prayer. When it clashes, the Nigerian Muslims won't attend. I was blown away by her sensitivity, by her understanding and respect for the Muslims and the Islamic tradition. So she holds the story of Nigeria, and I stand with her in this story. Who are the Nigerians? On the ground, they are every Nigerian house has a Christian, and the Christian has a Muslim, and they continue with their powerful collaborations. But what we hear outside is different. And notwithstanding the story of Nana and Bishop Dogo, who communicate to me very often about the challenges that is being faced. We had Frank Uto interviewed, whose whole family was disseminated at the Benue, state of Benue. And that's another story. So who are these? And today, my dear friend Halima Ahmed, whom I met through this work of international religious freedom, she has agreed to give us a new perspective. She talks about narratives and nuances and the Nigeria, why our stories about conflict matter. So before I introduce her, I'm going to ask, if Ruth is not in the room, I'm going to ask Dofa to just show briefly what we have done, what we are accomplishing, and what we are hoping to do in Nigeria. Dofa, over to you. I hope I didn't lose Dofa. Dofa? Okay, maybe I did lose Dofa. Halima, you're here. Thank you for showing up an hour early because we had messed up the time on the flyer. It is supposed to start at 11, not 12. Maybe Dofa can join us later, and towards the end, he can show us the video. And Ruth is also not available. Those are my two right-hand people, and John and Khadija and everybody else. I don't know where they are, but I'm going to introduce you, Halima, and then please share with us a new perspective for hope and possibility. So who is Halima? Halima Olodamade Ahmed is a senior research fellow at the Dawa Institute of Nigeria, DIN, Islamic Education Trust, where she specializes in research, training, and policy analysis on faith, gender, peace building, and interreligious relations. She is the co-author of 3 Faces, One of Truth, Unmasking Hypocrisy in Nigeria's Interfaith Discourse, and Media Reporting, a groundbreaking analysis that exposes the dangers of double standards, narrative asymmetry, and misinformation in interfaith engagement. Halima has contributed to multiple national and regional initiatives focused on women empowerment, freedom of religion or belief, gender-responsive programming, and community-led peace building. She regularly facilitates dialogues, delivers trainings, and provides evidence-based insights for policymakers, civil society actors, and faith leaders. She's passionate about truth-telling, moral integrity, and strengthening Nigeria's social fabric through nuanced, balanced, and responsible storytelling. Halima, to you. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Soraya. It's really a pleasure to be here. Once again, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I think many of the people we have in the room are from Nigeria, so it's evening over there. So good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure for me to be within this very important room of people who are not just interested in peace in Nigeria, but actually walking the talk by being actively involved in the peace process, particularly from the grassroots, which I believe many of those of us here today are, because indeed that is where true sustainable peace building begins within our communities and societies. So thank you all very much for the hard work you're doing in your various communities towards having peace in Nigeria and in the world generally. As Soraya already introduced, today I'm talking about a topic that I think is very, very important when we are talking about peace building in Nigeria, or having social cohesion, or having a truly united one nation that we're hoping can forge our path to peace, to reconciliation, to security, to development, together as one united nation. And that has to do with the narratives and the stories that we tell, and especially the nuances that are needed when we talk about conflict in Nigeria. Just to confirm, Soraya, can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I
Thank you
think.
very much.
Yeah.
So talking about narratives, nuance, and Nigeria, why our our stories about conflicts matter. From my perspective, I believe that our stories about conflict shape how we as Nigerians see ourselves. It also shapes how the world sees us. And most importantly, it influences how peace becomes harder or easier to build. Earlier, Soraya quoted Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and one of the very popular talks of Chimamanda is about the danger of a single story. The reality is that the stories of conflict in Nigeria is not one dimensional, it's not a single story. And continuing to tell it as a single story is not just an injustice to the victims who have already, the lives that have already been lost to the conflict, but it's also an impediment towards a future of peace and security for every Nigerian, and indeed everybody in Nigeria. First, I wanted us to talk about the power of narratives. I have a background in journalism. I have a postgraduate diploma in journalism. I went through a media and communication training at the Joel Academy in Germany. So, one of the very important theories in communication, and especially in the media, is what we call the framing theory. And this is a process, this is a strategic way in which, through the power of the media, individuals and groups and societies can select and highlight certain aspects of a situation or an issue and systematically exclude other aspects, and through that means shape public understanding, influence people's behavior. And we see that around us several times. Many of us, even if we are not familiar with this old theory thing, we know what is called PR, like public relations. A company or a celebrity gets in the news for a very bad reason. There is a bad review of a product, and then you can see a group of professionals are put together, and within sometimes as little as 24 hours, and sometimes maybe within 2 weeks to a month, the story, the situation, the framing, the perception that the public has about this individual or this company is completely flipped on its head, and it's a completely different perception that people have. So narratives determine not just what happened. It's not going to just tell us what exactly happened, but it's also going to tell how people interpret events. And this is very, very important for us to understand, especially when it comes to the issue of conflict. Two or more people can witness the same exact conflict. The chain of events would be exactly the same thing. A happened, then B, then C, then D, but different people who are eyewitnesses to this can tell completely different stories about that same exact chain of events, which would lead to completely different perceptions by those who hear the same story. For some of us, even if we're not looking at the macro level, perhaps at the micro level, we might have been witnesses to even a domestic dispute between a husband and a wife, or we within our group of community friends wanting to intervene between two people, and the different people tell you exactly different versions of the same story, that it's only when you put them together in the same spot that you're able to get the true version of things. So through the framing of conflict stories, the media, and especially those who use the media, those who have control of the media, and those who have most access to the media, can influence who gets blamed in a particular situation, can influence what gets emphasized and de-emphasized. And sometimes, unfortunately, just as this framing theory and this power of narratives and storytelling and framing can be used for good, unfortunately, it is often manipulated to serve different agendas. There are several situations where headlines prioritize sensationalism over the accuracy, or in the context of conflicts where religion becomes the default frame, even when it is completely irrelevant to the chain of events. And unfortunately, this kind of poor journalism, it amplifies tension and public fear, and it undermines peace and security within our communities. Again, there is regretfully a lot of false witnessing locally within our communities, in the kind of stories we tell ourselves within our various community groups, within our various faith groups, the kind of stories that we tell on our local media, as well as the kind of stories that we tell on international media and international stages. And these false witnesses come from various fronts, from religious leaders who are speaking on behalf of themselves and on behalf of the faith communities they represent, to community associations and different interest groups and different NGOs who have different kinds of affiliations and interests, have different kind of stories that they tell regarding the conflicts that are happening in the country, based on the different kind of results that they are hoping to get out of that. In terms of misinformation and manufactured narratives, we have several instances where we have fake news being peddled to fuel tension, to contribute to a particular news agenda or media agenda that we're trying to reinforce. An example of this, which is I think this happened last year, was when the news came out of a particular case in Zamfara, where it was said that, I think it was actually earlier this year, that one girl named Zainab had converted from Islam to Christianity, and she's been tried in Sharia court and she's facing the death penalty. All of which is completely false. But we saw many news media, including like print media, what we would otherwise consider credible media houses in Nigeria, going along with this story without verification, and it even spread further on social media, reigniting tensions, especially when something similar had happened in the past, so people think. And we have cases of selective media labeling. A very good example of that just last month, where an unfortunate incident happened in Kwara, which is a state that has witnessed a lot of bandit attacks, within the last 6 months. In one of those attacks, when Vanguard newspaper was going to report the story, the headline reads exactly, bandits in fresh attacks kill pastor, village herd, kidnap 2 others in Kwara. This is particularly poignant because this news was being reported at a time when the story or the narrative about Christian genocide in Nigeria had just hit the waves. But then, so this story is an example of how media does framing. By highlighting the religion of the pastor only, it is feeding into a particular narrative. By the time you read the full story, you realize that the village head in question is Muslim. The 2 others in questions are Muslim. In fact, these people were attacked right at the mosque when they were performing ablution to observe the sunset prayer. But all of that was ignored in the telling of the story, rather highlighting just the religion. But the reality is, this is a very serious insecurity problem where citizens have been affected, and it should have been reported as such, but the religion of just a group of them is being highlighted. Another dimension to this is the social media dimension. We have so many cases where, whether it is old, things that happened in the past, or things that even happened somewhere else, or completely fake photos are used alongside with different stories that are concocted, and you see them spread. You see a picture with dead bodies on the ground and people praying over it, and then you see the caption says, fresh attack on a Christian community in so place. But then by the time you do reverse the image, you realize this is actually a Muslim funeral. Like, Christians don't actually pray over their dead body in this manner, like having a janaza prayer. This is actually a Muslim prayer, not a Christian funeral prayer. So we see several instances like these stories, unverifiable clips that, unfortunately, due to the virality of social media, these kind of stories spread rapidly and could lead to tensions or affect already fragile relationships. Another angle to this is the international actors and NGOs. There are a lot of donor organizations, international actors, NGOs that are focused and interested in Nigeria for various reasons. And one of the challenges that we find is this recycled narrative of a Christian genocide happening in the country, even though I do acknowledge that we have a huge insecurity problem in the country. The loss of lives, the indiscriminate attacks and kidnappings and killings, and from young girls to women and pregnant women and men and youth, all of this is not acceptable. All of this is a failing of our government, and there is the need for more concrete action on tackling the insecurity problem of the country and making the country safe for every single person within its borders. But beyond that, this narrative of a targeted Christian genocide has been recycled a number of times, especially on the international stage, even more than within the local community, within the country, Nigeria, until very recently, where it became heightened with the proclamation by the President of the United States. And also, we see a lot of simplistic Muslims killing Christians framing, despite the fact that when we looked objectively at the data, especially from credible organizations like ACLED, we see that there are victims across board. We see that even though Boko Haram and ISWAP and those kind of groups and the bandits have wreaked so much havoc on the country, most of the victims are actually Christians, because are actually Muslims, because most of the areas in which they operate are really occupied, and the residents of those places are Muslims. So the narrative crisis that we have in Nigeria, the problem is that many conflicts, in fact, most conflicts are often misdiagnosed and labeled purely as religious. Even when the drivers are political or ethnic, intercommunal or economic, like the criminals. It's always been given a religious coloration. I remember sometime, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, when some victims have been kidnapped during one of these too frequent kidnappings on Nigerian road, and they were requesting for ransom. And this, it was in Ramadan, which is when Muslims are fasting. And this person who was negotiating on behalf of the family was pleading with the kidnappers, like, this is, we're in Ramadan, I beg you in the name of God. And the kidnapper was responding. The conversation between the kidnappers and the families was recorded. And in the recording, the kidnappers was responding, what are you talking about? I'm also Muslim, I'm also fasting. This is business. So these people don't care about the religion, but unfortunately their actions are being placed upon religion. Also, we see where emotional narratives overshadow the evidence. Again, like I said, so many credible organizations like ACLED, like Search for Common Ground, have done consistent, verifiable data and research analyzing the conflicts in Nigeria and the different drivers and the different push and pull factors and the complexity of it. And there are evidence for this. But often, for various reasons, people resort to more emotional narratives that generate sympathy, generate support, rather, and this overshadows the evidence. And again, sometimes, as I mentioned, the media, politicians, and unfortunately, even faith actors often frame events to fit pre-existing beliefs or to fit their own agendas or to fit whatever frame it is that they want to continue to perpetrate and ingrain in the perception of the public and the international community. The effect of this kind of narrative crisis is that the oversimplification of our problem distorts the true root causes of our problem. It's just like in medicine. If a person is having malaria, but then they are being treated for stomach ache, they're never gonna get better. It's not that they're not being given a medicine, but because with wrong diagnosis equals wrong prescription. It's exactly the same thing here. When we put everything under the garb of religion, we believe religion is the problem. Our intervention is only focusing on religion, whereas there are other drivers. We have ineffective peace building. We cannot have true peace building in that case. Also, this oversimplification, it deepens divisions. It undermines social cohesion, because when we have people genuinely working for peace from all sides of the issue, but over and over again, one side is being presented to be the problem, even though they are also trying to be a part of the solution, inevitably they get frustrated, they get edged out, they feel like there is no place for them in the peace building mission of the country. And so this deepens the divisions within the community. When people who when, for example, Muslims or Muslim communities are victims of violence, and this is not reported, or it is underreported, or it is ignored, this deepens divisions. This makes communities feel alienated and undermines their ability to work together with other communities for social cohesion. Also, a lot of international organizations, like I said, so much money is being pumped in the last 10 years, 10 to 20 years. God knows the amount of billions of dollars that have pumped into Nigeria in aid, in humanitarian aid for peace building, but we are not seeing the right results because it is being misused, because it is being directed to the wrong problems, leaving the real problems lingering. It doesn't matter the amount of money you throw at the wrong problem. You're never going to get a solution because you're not addressing what needs to be addressed. So the conflict in Nigeria needs a lot of nuance to understand the various layers and overlapping drivers and address all of them simultaneously in the degree that is needed for us to be able to achieve peace. The reality is that many conflict countries have overlapped.
We lost you, Halima. We lost you. Is there some reason that we lost? Because I don't want the people not to hear her.
We can't hear you, Alima.
You can? Okay, but
we can't hear her.
We can't
hear her.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Now, yes. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you for letting me know, Soraya. So like I was saying, many of our conflicts are layered. Not all conflicts are religious. In fact, most of our conflicts are not religious in and of themselves. What we see is that religion is often a proxy. It's never the primary cause. And what we see is that when we have a nuanced lens, we see shared grievances, we see shared vulnerability. For example, I've been engaged in a lot of interreligious dialogue and engagement, bringing Muslims and Christians from communities together. What I have seen in my experience is that when you bring Muslims and Christians from one particular community, let's say from Sokoto, together for dialogue, you would see, because of the other layers of differences in ethnicity, of difference in majority, minority, or settler indigenous issues that are layered in there, you realize that in that kind of setting, most likely the Christians are the victims. They are the ones who have complaints about violations of their freedom of religion and belief and denials. And it looks like, oh, the Muslims are the perpetrators. But if you do the exact same exercise, but this time you bring Muslims from Anambra and you bring Christians from Sokoto together, what you then see is that the exact same grievances that Christians from Sokoto or Kaduna are having is the same set of grievances that Muslims in Anambra or Enugu or Port Harcourt are having. So we have shared grievances, shared vulnerability. People who are victims in one part of the country are perpetrators in another part of the country, depending on whether they are the majority or the minority. So this is a very, very nuanced and complex and multi-layered situation that we have to be aware of the complexity and allow the complexity to inform the kind of interventions that we're going to be bringing in. And what is the cost of ignoring this nuance, which is what we have been having so far, is that we have been misdiagnosing our problem, and with misdiagnosis comes wrong interventions and policy missteps from the government and other stakeholders who want to intervene. Also, with false narratives of genocide and targeted persecution based specifically on religion, without going into the nuances of the other drivers and identity markers involved in the conflict, the international community misunderstands Nigeria's reality. And so the aid and support that they are trying to bring in to solve the problem is misallocated because it is being spent on the wrong things. And also the selective empathy that comes with ignoring nuance deepens grievances from the side that feels ignored and also furthers the polarization that we feel in this community. Also, the neglect of the mutual suffering, not recognizing that we are all in this boat together. If it sinks, we all sink. Neglecting this mutual suffering entrenches this us versus them kind of mentality, which is leading us nowhere. And but rather what we see is that allowing this us versus them, this polarization narrative, it empowers the extremists, it empowers the bandits and these criminal gangs more, and silences the moderates, because now the moderates start being seen as sellouts within their communities. And inevitably all of this would derail the peace building that the peace that we're trying to achieve. So the truth about victimhood is that extremism targets everybody. Violence in Nigeria is multi-directional, is multi-victim. It has no exclusive face. If you ask every community, if we want to divide on basis of religion, Muslims can identify several instances where they have been victims. Christians can identify several instances where they have been victims. If we want to go on the basis of ethnicity or community, or whatever angle we want to look at, we would always have people who have been victims and perpetrators, and often it's a cycle that keeps repeating itself. You're a victim this time, there is retaliation, then you become the perpetrator, and then there's another counter retaliation, and before you know it, everybody has a story of violence, being a victim of violence to tell. But who are the real perpetrators of the problems that we're having? We have the terrorists, the extremists, we have them as Christians and Muslims. And for groups like Boko Haram, ISWAP, for example, Boko Haram, for many of us who know, who have been aware and have been following and have been looking at credible data, we know that these people have no regard for everybody who is not part of them. It doesn't matter whether you're wearing the biggest hijab, you do not subscribe to the ideology, you are a target. And so many Muslims have been killed by them as well. We have the IPOB militants and extremists as well. We have community militias, different groups trying to defend their own communities, and often leading to cycles of vengeance and violence. We have criminals and opportunists, the bandits, the kidnappers who would kidnap anybody and everybody, not caring whether you're a pastor, a reverend, or an imam, or you're a pregnant woman, or you're just a 2-year-old child. It's really unfortunate, but this is the reality, the unfortunate reality that we are facing. And inevitably, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God, as the Bible says in Romans. Every community, whether it's a faith group or an ethnic group, we all have a part of our history and perhaps our present that we are not proud of as a community, that we do not defend, that we do not justify. But unfortunately, sometimes we have people from our various communities who are our hotheads, who are our extremists, and who are doing these things, even though it is not in line with what the rest of us believe. And so, what do we have to do in this situation? We all have to reclaim responsibility for balanced storytelling. And what does balanced storytelling look like in this case? We all have to verify claims before sharing. We all need to ensure that all voices and data from all sides are included in our reporting, whether it is us reporting as individuals, organizations, or as a media house. We have to be able to distinguish religion from other conflict drivers. We need to be able to avoid totalizing language. Rarely does one group represent the whole. Very, very rarely does that happen. And so it is important to be aware of that nuance, so that we all can work with the whole to ostracize and go against the group, the minor, the sector that is the problem. But when we put just that tiny group, that tiny sector, when we totalize them, we risk alienating the whole that should have been our partners in charting the path to peace and security. It's also important that we avoid premature conclusions on things, to name all victims, because every single human life is sacred. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that if whoever kills even one soul unjustly, it is as if they have killed the whole of humankind. And whoever saves one life, it is as if they have saved all of humankind. So every victim is somebody's mother, someone's brother, father. They're somebody's loved one. And irrespective of their ethnicity, their faith, their language, whatever other delineating factors or identity markers, they deserve to live. They do not deserve to have their life snuffed out of them in such violent manner. And it is important for us to distinguish between correlation and causation, and people who are researchers and academics will understand this. The importance of us challenging our own internal biases. Am I telling this story because that is what fits the dominant narrative for me and my community, or is this really the reality of the complex situation we are facing? And also importantly, and this is very important because we're not doing this enough, we need to highlight the stories of mutual protection, of mutual cooperation, of Muslims and Christians living together, working together, advancing for peace and security and development together. We need to show that the extremists and terrorists and militants and criminals amongst us are the minority. We need to show that the majority of all of us are united, and that's the way we can all work together towards actual peace. So we need to alienate the extremists rather than alienating the whole. And this is very important for peace building, because then when we have accurate narratives, we build trust, we are able to design better interventions, we are able to protect the vulnerable amongst us, and we are able to strengthen cohesion between communities. So to wrap up, I just want to reiterate that true and especially interfaith peace building begins with confronting our own inconsistencies. We need to all look inward and ask ourselves, are we really being sincere in the kind of claims and stories that we are telling? Or are we saying what we think the donor organization wants to hear in order for us to get the money that we are asking for? And are we learning? We learn to see the other in the same moral lens that we reserve for ourselves. We all have to understand that peace will not come from silence or from shouting louder, but from telling the truth in full, even when it challenges our own preferred narratives. Because the truth is the foundation on which true, positive, and sustainable peace stands. And without truth, we cannot have sustainable peace. And I believe I am tired of the constant news of violence coming out of my country, and I believe that you are also. And I believe that it is important for us all to be able to work together as one community, united against violence, united against extremism, whatever the identity front on which that extremism wants to stand, whether it is on extreme or on religious or ethnic or separatist or political ideologies, that we all come together as a nation to say no to that, because we can see countries that have allowed this to thrive. We can see what is becoming to them. We can see the effects of war and displacement. We can see that even the Western societies that used to support and accept refugees and people who have been displaced are tightening their borders and have stricter immigration reforms. If we allow our country to go into shambles, we would have nowhere to go and we would all be worse off for it. So this is a call for me and you, for us all to work together across whatever lines that we think divide us, at least on that line that unites us, that we are all first and foremost humans and have human dignity, and that we are all also Nigerians. And I pray that God intervenes to support all those who are currently working assiduously for peace and help us to achieve true sustainable peace in Nigeria and beyond. Thank you very much for staying with me through this, and I look forward to your comments, your contributions, and your questions. Thank you very much, Soraya, for putting this together once again.
Thank you, Halima. Our time is also running short, but I have two questions before we can open the space to our listeners. You have opened a whole new uh, level of thought and understanding of what's happening. Some say Nigeria's violence highlights the devastating impact of the conflict. There is a huge conflict, with some attributing it to religion, while others are pointing it to systemic issues like poor governance. So, what is the truth? Is there something in between, or is it poor governance, or is it religious extremism?
I believe that several credible evidence have shown that there are various drivers in the conflicts happening in Nigeria. There are, but I would say I would definitely put it at the doorstep of the government, because whatever the drivers of conflict are, the government is ultimately responsible for the peace and security of the country. Providing security is the sole responsibility of the government. So yeah, definitely I would put it on them. But is poor governance the only reason why we have those conflicts? Definitely not. There are the various drivers. One of them is resources. For example, the farmer elder clashes, whether it is happening in the middle belt or it is happening in the northwest, it's often due to resources, land, water, greenery, pasture. This is something that is scarce, especially, and researchers have shown how this has become worse, especially with more climate change and degradation and things like that. So we do have that as a huge driver of violence in these communities. We do have criminality as a huge driver of violence. Constantly we have groups, various kind of groups, criminal gangs, including some who say that they are motivated by religion, who attack communities, attack schools, attack an entire community, take an entire community hostage. This is another different. For these people, they're just after ransom, food, getting taxes and levies from the communities. That is what this kind of criminals are off to get. We have those, for example, the Boko Haram and ISWAP kind of terrorists. When these groups started, they said that they did start as Islamic groups. They were preaching from the Islamic perspective, but with time it has evolved a lot into a criminal terrorist group that is Islamist in its outlook. And so we do see, as evidence shows, that these groups attack Muslims as well as they attack Christians, and they do not discriminate. That is the word. These groups do not discriminate when it comes to attacking people and communities. So again, from land to resources to ethnicity, we have intercommunal conflict where it is really just people from one community fighting people from the other community. Often, when this happens, especially in the middle belt, it's also often that one part is Muslim and one part is Christian. And it could also be that one part is Muslim Fulani and the other part is Christian Birom or Irigwe or any other tribe like that. And so when there are those clashes and violence, usually the religion of the conflict parties is what is highlighted. And one of the challenges that we then have is that all of these statistics gets all joined together, and then we have this rhetoric of a Christian genocide in Nigeria. But again, ultimately, I'll put it at the desk of the government. It is their job to counter this insecurity. And I believe that Nigeria, with our might as the giant of Africa, if our government is really, really serious, if they really want to do it, if they and their families are affected by this violence, they would have been able to put a stop to it, or at least reduce it to the barest minimum. I don't think there's any country that doesn't have its own share of
Okay.
violence. I live somewhere where almost every day there is the news of a shooting, somebody, a child being killed right in their own homes, a pregnant woman
Mm.
attacked. Right? So we do have this pockets of violence everywhere around the world. But the scale that we are having in Nigeria is unprecedented and unacceptable. And I would hold our government to account for that.
Thank you. So you hold the government accountable. So in that regard, I'm going to ask one more question. Dova, are we having questions from the audience? Please make sure that our speaker hears. So Halima, various monitoring groups, the groups and U.S. political figures report that over 7,000 Christians were killed in Nigeria in the first 7-8 months in 2025 alone. So that figure averages to around 30 to 35 deaths per day. And as we all know, the US government has now designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern, CPC. And this was a recommendation the Commission on Religious Freedom made since 2009, because the government engaging, these are the words, not mine, but the United States Commission, it says, the government's engaging and tolerating systematic, ongoing, and egregious religious freedom violations cannot be tolerated. So the CPC designation was made to ensure that the perpetrators of the violence are held to account and people of faith are protected and those held hostages are rescued. So, what are your thoughts on the United States government designating Nigeria as a CPC and getting involved in this conflict? Is it necessary? Is it going to be more harmful, or will some good come out of it? Doesn't the government of Nigeria need the assistance from international world, particularly America?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rhea. There's so many dimensions to what you have stated. And first, I want to highlight the fact that you said that the recommendation of designating Nigeria as CPC started since 2009. I think this is very notable because the Boko Haram crisis started in 2009. Also, when the Boko Haram crisis first started, initially, for those who are not conversant with the history of the group, it started as just a very charismatic leader having his followers, talking to them, preaching a very radical version of Islam that many other religious scholars immediately started to debate and counter with him. So at this point, it was really just preaching, no nothing about violence. But unfortunately, an altercation with the security operatives led to the first round of violence. And afterwards, for the first few months of Boko Haram's violence was indeed directed majorly at government. So government agencies, security, police stations, army stations, things like that were being attacked. And also churches were being attacked at this time. But soon afterwards, and especially with the death of Muhammad Yusuf, who was the founder of the group, the rise of Shekau as the new leader, the group continued. The thing about the group is that they continue to evolve, they continue to change their strategies, their approach. And what quickly became clear was that this group had no regard for human life at all. So it wasn't about Christian, they were against everybody. As far as they're concerned, it was a bipolarized world. You're either with them or against them, and they would attack everybody that was against them. Now, to the assertion that over 7,000 Christians have died this year, unfortunately, I wouldn't dispute that that is right or wrong. But what I would say is that one, that is the data for Christian victims. We do not have corresponding data for Muslim victims. But highlighting that, again, as we said, two things are happening. One, victims from various kinds of violence. Victims from attacks due to farmer header clashes, victims from attacks due to Boko Haram or ISWA, victims from attacks due to IPOB militants in the southeast, victims from attack due to intercommunal clashes. All of these victims are put together in one box as this is the number of Muslims that have been killed. Therefore, there is a targeted genocide against Christians. That is not the case. Rather, what is happening is that, yes, some Christians have been victims, some Muslims have been victims. Unfortunately, again, like I said, I do not like an Olympics of victimhood where we start, because this is human lives. I am a mother. I have 4 children. I have a husband. I have children. I have siblings. I have family. I wouldn't like that they are being talked about in a manner of statistics as if they're not some people's loved ones. But then this is the reality that we find ourselves. In terms of the designation of Nigeria as a CPC, and should that be the case, I think it depends on how the government of America wants to approach this. Unfortunately, the approach we saw, especially at the beginning of the designation, was not a very helpful one for the country. If designating Nigeria as a CPC by the US means that the US is going to work with the Nigerian government, support the Nigerian government in fighting the insurgents and militants and addressing the security issues through cooperations in intelligence, in weaponry, and things like that, that would be very welcome. But a declaration of war on the country definitely is not helpful to anybody. A declaration, a polarizing narrative of Muslims versus Christians, or the Christian genocide, whereas everybody is suffering, like blood is leaking every day in the country due to the various kinds of violence happening, is again polarizing to one part of the country, is not true of the context. It oversimplifies our problems, and it is not going to help us. There have been so many times in the past where the Nigerian government has sought the help of the US in this fight against terrorism and insurgency. I've sought help in getting more advanced weapons, in better securing the borders, because the arms that these groups are using is coming from somewhere. It is being supplied often by various governments as well from outside the country. So these are ways in which America and other international governments can support the Nigerian government in its fight against insurgency and terrorism and violence without violating the sovereignty of the country. I think that is very, very important.
Thank you. Thank you. I have so many more questions, but I want to be respectful of time. Dofa, there's a question. Somebody asks, Timya
Okay,
Yakub,
yeah.
she wants to know how the traditional rulers and chiefs can be infused into community course of peace building. Are they actively engaged? What can they do more of, especially Muslim religious leaders? I would ask as a Muslim woman. Yeah.
Definitely. The traditional rulers in Nigeria have a very big role to play. And they have been actively involved, at least to the best of my knowledge, not just in peace building issues, but also in other development initiatives. I know that on the Muslim side, we have the national, the NCSIA, so the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, led by the Sultan of Sokoto. I am aware that he has, they have a council of traditional rulers in the country, and even religious leaders, especially from the Muslim side. And these groups are usually working, and they have had so many various, workshops and trainings for themselves on how to work with their communities in order to NIP, especially, and this is where traditional leaders are important. They are very, very useful in early warning, early response systems, because they have a lot of influence in their communities. They have the power and the responsibility to quickly NIP violence in its bud before it starts. When rumors are starting, for example, they could quickly address these rumors within their local communities. But I say that the role of traditional religious leaders are much more impactful in rural communities, because there they have more direct access to the community members and much more influence compared to more urban areas, for example. I mean, I know my community probably has a king that I do not know his name, and it's not very important in very urban areas, except for like first class kings and things. But definitely, traditional rulers have a lot of role to play in this. Just again, we are in a situation that we require all hands on deck. So religious leaders, traditional leaders, government agencies, even our schools, our education system have the responsibility of educating people, of providing the correct and balanced narratives. We have organized training for teachers of Islamic studies and Christian religious studies in secondary schools, for example, because these people have direct access to children. And if they have questions regarding people of other faith, other than asking their parents or their pastors, they are probably going to ask their Islamic studies teacher at school, is it okay for me to be friends with a Christian? Are Christians good people generally? These kind of things and the kind of responses that they get influence how they view the others as people. Do they dehumanize them, or do they see them as humans with equal rights and equal dignity as themselves? And so everybody has a part to play, because once again, like I said, this is our country. We are all in this boat together. If it sinks, we all sink.
Do you remember, Halima, the movement led by Lema Gabowi in
Yeah,
Liberia? The
definitely in
women.
Nigeria,
Yes,
the Nobel Peace
yes,
Prize winner. And yeah, that shows the power of women, and
yes,
how when women say enough is enough often, and we really put our effort into it,
yeah,
enough will be enough. And the violence happening affects women disproportionately.
yeah,
Women are the ones who are usually victims of sexual abuse and sexual assault when these attacks happen. Men do not experience that. Women are the one who, when their husbands and their children are kidnapped or killed, they have to take the role of the primary breadwinner of the family. They do not even have the time to grieve their loss. This
yeah,
kind of compounded trauma has effect on the person. It could lead to intergenerational transfer of trauma between generations. As one author rightly put it, the body tells, the body keeps the score.
yes.
And this kind of trauma passing from generation to generation is not helpful for us as a nation. And we all need to be able to step up and say enough is enough. And the only way we can say enough is enough and be successful in it is to, as somebody said, to get it right without any sentiment of religion or ethnicity. By seeing everybody as human self and saying nobody deserves this. I don't care what religion, what tongue, what language. I don't care if I cannot even communicate with them, but they do not deserve to be slaughtered in this manner. And I do not deserve to. My beloved ones do not deserve to, and they do not deserve to as well.
Thank you, Halima. Our goal at Nigerian Women Lead is to bring together 1,000 women from states and then train them in community organizing. So they go back and build more women and more women. And we see women as important stakeholders. Unfortunately, our time is up. I'm going to give it over to John, who has some words and to share a few clips. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. There's always something to learn from every narrative, and you say, as again, what I want to emphasize is that your stories about conflicts matter, and nuance and narratives in Nigeria to be taken into account. Thank you. John?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. John?
Thank you so much, Raya. Thank you, Halima, for this wonderful session, telling us about the dangers of one side story. It's very important that we have the full story so that we can have a balanced narrative and we prevent escalating issues or giving a wrong narrative. Thank you so much. All right, thank you everybody for being here. This is Nigerian Women Lead. Raya is our CEO and the founder of Nigerian Women Lead. She's in the US, but her heart is in Nigeria. Always thinking and doing so much for us. We have been working in Nigeria together, and we've been mobilizing women and young ladies and young men too to intervene in freedom of religion and belief. We believe that if religions coexist in peace and harmony, it brings about development, it brings about power, and with power, we can bring about a change in our communities. We have a lot of activities that we've done in the past, our project, and one of the major activities we had was in last November, where we organized over 100 young women all over Taraba State. They came and we had a good time on women's community organizing and leadership training, where they're being taught on how to lead change in their community and ensure peace and harmony, even as young women in the community. After all, we still have another project with the older women, where we organized over 50 women who came together to be trained on how to build power, how to cause change through one-on-one engagement, and seeing those that have the same self-interest with them, and doing a lot of projects for their community. And that helped led us to our community to another event that we had in December last year, where the Christian women invite the Muslim women into a Christmas lunch, and that was the first in its kind in the whole of northeastern Nigeria. These are the strides that Nigerian women leads are doing in Nigeria just to ensure peace and harmony among all the religions in Nigeria. And also in during the Ramadan in 2026, we also had the Muslim women invite a Christian for the Salah celebration, and all happened in Taraba State. These are wonderful occasions. I think we have pictures. Dofa, can you show us some of those pictures of the meal they shared together? These are the amazing things, and we believe that through these programs and events, where Muslim women invite their peers, and also Christian women invite their peers to come and have conversation along the lines of peace, tolerance, and also how they can influence both their children and even their husband to be tolerant to one another and also live in peace. These are the great changes that we're making, and also we still had another. Engagement in the rural environment in Karim Lamido in Taraba State, where our team went all over to the community to go and speak to young women and in the community about uh, menstrual hygiene and personal health education. We have a lot of issues where people are being reported in the rural communities for lack of education, how to manage their puberty and also their menstrual health. So in response to that, we use that as avenue to go and teach the women and also see how we could promote peace and harmony through the uh, talks and topics about also inter-peace relationship. And lastly, we also had a wonderful event just I think just 2 weeks, a week ago, where we went to Zinc during the 16 days advocacy of against GBV in partnership with Omnia and Amisha Humanitarian Foundation, where we're able to lead schoolgirls and tell them about the impact of GBV and how they could mitigate the risks, and also how they could also live in peace and harmony with their fellow girls in school, regardless of the religion. These are the amazing things that Nigerian Women Lead is doing. I want to call on everybody who is on this call to be part of this great work. If you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're a girl, regardless, we are all calling on you, because the issue of peace is very important that we all put our hands on deck. And we believe that if women can lead this advocacy, if women can lead this change, we'll reach our desired goals and vision. Thank you so much. And I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you. What is Ryan?
Thank you, John. We are
Yeah,
come to the
thank you very much, John. Thank you, Sora. Yeah, thank you, Soradin. Thank you, our guest Halima. Your session was really impactful. We still have a few questions on the chat, so I'll plead to everyone that is watching us online. We get to address this question in our next session. We normally have this session every month, every 29th of the month. So in our next session, we'll make sure that we take note of all these questions. We are already 14 minutes ahead of time. So thank you all for joining. As a wrap up, I'm going to be playing a short video. Immediately after the video, then we can call it a day. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this evening.
In a world where women's voices continue to shape peace, purpose, and progress, Nigeria stands as a beacon of hope, empowering women, uplifting communities, and transforming lives across Nigeria. From women peace gathering that bridge divide and promote unity to the Party Girl campaign, ensuring every young girl has the dignity and confidence to succeed. We are building a movement of care, courage, and change. Through our empowering children with initiative, we also providing and learning tools for orphans and vulnerable children. Because every child deserves a chance to dream. We nurture women leaders through our leadership and capacity building seminars, equipping them to lead with vision, strength, and compassion and work with communities. And in the spirit of unity, our Christmas and all faiths together, celebrate love, peace, and togetherness as one family under God. Through leadership trainings, mentorship programs, and community empowerment projects, Nigerian Women Lead continue to raise a generation of women and youth who are ready to lead for peace, for justice, and for a better Nigeria. Because when women lead, communities rise and nations thrive. Nigerian Women Lead, inspiring change and empowering generations.
So that's a wrap. That's a wrap up. Thank you everyone for joining today's session, and we see you next month. Please, anytime we send in invitation, feel free to for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Dofa. Everybody, have a great rest of the weekend. Bye bye.
All right, bye everybody.
Yeah.